Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office is bracing for a new wave of resignations. The prosecutors are alarmed by the administration's response to the Renee Good's killing. So this is by a Samantha Michaels. She's a senior reporter, and so this is a photo of Renee Good. So more resignations of federal prosecutors are expected at the U.S. Attorney Office in Minnesota amid ongoing frustrations over the Trump administration's response to the fatal shooting of Renee Good by an ICE officer in Minneapolis. So I have heard that there may be more people leaving. I would consider senior and respected career prosecutors, said Anders Folk, a former acting U.S. attorney in Minnesota who left the office back in 2021 to work for the Justice Department in Washington, D.C. under former President Biden. So Minnesota federal defender Catherine Rowe, in a statewide email obtained by the Sahan Journal, also wrote that more resignations are anticipated at the U.S. Attorney's Office. So it's a sign that something is not right. There, added Folk, who is still in touch with colleagues in the office and is now running for the Hennepin County Attorney. So already this week, at least 5 federal prosecutors in Minnesota announced their resignations. So among them was the office's second in command, Joseph Thompson, who was overseeing the welfare fraud investigation involving Somali immigrants that President Trump used as a pretext to send his immigration force to Minneapolis. So this right here, you can see some still photos in between. So the prosecutors did not give a reason for the departures, but their announcement came shortly after the Justice Department ordered the office to investigate Good's wife rather than focus on the shooter and the shooting itself. So it's a big deal, and this is fairly unprecedented. Lori Levinson, a former federal prosecutor now based in LA, said of the resignation, "So you have so many leaving, and frankly on principle. We are living in a unique times where prosecutors are being asked to do things they've never had to do before, and that's not what they signed up for." So 5 senior prosecutors at the Justice Department Civil Rights Division in DC, a unit that investigates police killings, also resigned this week. Since Trump's re-election, Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office has seen a steady stream of departures. Nearly 50 out of 135 staffers have left their positions, according to a person with knowledge of the departures who did not want to be named, and who confirmed that more resignations are likely. Some of the office's attorney left last year as Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency was working to downsize the federal workforce. Others quit in December after ICE launched its Minneapolis surge. So the administration's response to the Good's death, Renee Good, this was January the 7th when it happened, appears to have been the last straw for some of the prosecutors. So the 37-year-old mom, who had partly blocked a neighborhood street with her vehicle, was fatally shot in the head and the chest by ICE officers Jonathan Ross. The killing, which has sparked nationwide protests, was captured on video by multiple bystanders and also by Ross, who recorded the encounter on his phone. In his footage, a male voice, which the New York Times has verified was Ross, could be heard calling Good a effing or a fucking bitch. Excuse my French, but that was what was caught on tape, and you could see it on the videos, and I heard it too when I saw the video. This was after he had shot her. So the Justice Department has defended Ross, accusing Good of trying to run him over, and ordered the U.S. Attorney's Office to focus on Good's wife, who was on hand protesting the ICE operation. But a frame-by-frame video analysis that was taken from the Times clearly shows that Ross shot Good as she was steering her vehicle away from him, and that he was not run over as Trump and the federal officials had claimed, or struck by a vehicle in a substantial way at all. So the administration quickly excluded the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension from its investigation, making it harder for the state authorities to gather evidence. As staffers at the U.S. Attorney's Office watched the video footage, some were crying or otherwise visibly emotional about the death and the Justice Department's response, according to the person with knowledge of these departures. So since Operation Metro Surge began in the Twin Cities, federal immigration officers have reportedly arrested more than 2,400 people. To deal with the influx of cases, given its reduced staff, the U.S. Attorney's Office is receiving help from military attorneys known as Judge Advocates General. Several JAGs are already stationed at the office, and the Pentagon, according to CNN, plans to send about 25 more of them. So as videos spread showing the brutal ICE encounters in the Twin Cities, officers dragging a disabled woman out of her car as she tried to drive to a doctor's appointment, carrying away an unconscious man in handcuffs, throwing a flashbang at a car with 6 children in it, and more. Protesters are calling for accountability and yelling at the masked federal officers to get out of their neighborhoods. But to file civil rights cases against ICE agents and any other law enforcement prosecutors at the U.S. Attorney's Office would need approval from Executive Office for United States Attorneys in D.C. And that feels impossible, said the person with knowledge of the resignations, when you can't even get an investigation for a woman who was shot point blank in the head. So, folk, the former acting U.S. attorney told me that he's never seen anything like this recent spate of resignations in Minnesota. So it's unusual that he said for so many career prosecutors as opposed to the political appointees to leave at the same time. It's deeply concerning to many members of the legal community here, folk told me, and he worries about the consequences for other investigations, including the ones looking into fraud in the state welfare programs and the assassinations of former House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark last year. So at least some of the attorneys who resigned this week had planned to use their accumulated leave to stay on longer and help with the transition, but the Justice Department fired them after they announced their intentions, abruptly blocked their credentials, and had them escorted out of the building. The Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office had fewer than 30 prosecutors prior to the latest departures. That's less than half of full head count should be. So folks said this. So former federal prosecutor Levinson added that it might be difficult for the office to hire new attorneys given the explosive political environment. People of the caliber you used to get at U.S. attorneys' offices aren't interested in the job. So they've had a major brain drain. And I don't know who's going to be left to do the cases, she said. This will have an impact for years to come. So that's pretty much this article. And so that's what's happening regarding the case of Renee Good. And it's sad. And so that's how you know that this right here is really, really, really sad. That people are leaving the office because they see how much of a hot button situation this whole thing is and how tragic this is. And they're probably also feeling a lot of pressure, and it's coming from the administration itself.